Wow, we got a great call lined up tonight for a lot of you folks. And we just want to have a happy hour. You know, when things got shut down, Pastor Thomas, you know, we're still here providing, even though I'm on the road. And we've got over 2 years worth of things in the background that we put together on the channel. That channel is a wealth of information. And I want to encourage every one of you just to get back on the channel, spend an hour or two a day on the channel. And Manny, I'm going to tell you what, sir, you'll be so impressed with that channel. You'll be an RVP before you know it. Corey, you'll be also an RVP before you know it. But that channel has so much. Every question that some of you had is always answered on that channel. Regional Director, Mr. Marvin Carter, good evening. Thank you for joining. I just want to share that with you. You guys, with love in my heart, Scott, you guys have so much. If I were you, wanting to do the things that you heard today from Mr. Nelson, I would jump on that channel and spend an hour to 2 hours every day learning. Like he said today, SVP start, you know, life starts at SVP. Not the goal, that's where it starts. And we concur with so many things he says today, like when he talked about today about his year starting in October. Mine started December 20th every year for the last 30 years. That gives me an 11-day head start on the average person. This is nothing. Look, write this down. Before we write this down. To think. To what? To think. To what? To think. Uh-oh, what happened here? To think is to create. Write that down. To what? Think. What does the world don't do? They don't think. There's a book now called The Dumbing Down of America, but they don't think because they know that. That's why we've been led like sheep to the slaughter. To think is to create. Write that down. To think is to create. And part two of that is to create is to what? Think. We don't think. We want everything instant answer, instant this. We don't want to search anything out anymore. We want it instant. I remember the good old days when Britannicas was out. They had the guys selling the encyclopedias door to door back in the good old days, right, Miss Catherine Williams? Yeah. You know, and the blessing is you can find it in there. If you can find it, you can find it. But now we want everything so easy. And I love what Mr. Nelson said today. When he talked about his year in October, I was like, oh my God. See, like minds, we do think alike. Mine ends December 20th. I was going to ask Mr. Brian Baker today, but I forgot to. He knows. He's seen me write it out. I go to the wine country, sit in my favorite restaurant in the wine country. I have the table blocked off of me every year with reservation, and I have my little hat for the holidays on there, and I go at it. Happy New Year! And people look at me like, he's at a 7-star, not a 5-star, but a restaurant talking about Happy New Year's. It's December 20th, right? But they don't understand. My year ends December 20th. That gives me an 11-day head start on the masses. I never wanted to be like the masses. I never wanted to live in an average house, drive an average. I never wanted that. And I said, if there's a way that God can bless me, if I put my head down and go to work. Now, think about this. I don't care if you're in America, Canada, Australia, Japan. I don't care where you're at, Mexico. He gave you the same opportunity he gave me. And that is to change my life. And ACN is an opportunity to change your life. I don't care what currency, what country you're in, you have the chance to change your life. And I've been doing this for over 30, so it doesn't surprise me. I got excited when Mr. Nelson talked about that today. October? I'm like, oh my God, you started just in October? Man, I thought I was doing something. I started mine 11 days early. And I meant to have Mr. Baker kind of concur that with you because he's seen my book. And I'm just here to tell you folks, you're missing the boat. You guys are getting the best of the best. In my opinion, I don't mean to sound, but in my opinion, every day you get the best there is to be offered to build your business. I think we just need to start doing it. I think Mr. Nelson has joined us, and I want him to give that little extra piece today because I know a lot of you were waiting last night to hear the rest of it. But the reason why I said that, because see, most of us are not willing to sacrifice. Well, I got to get back on here. Well, yeah, being successful, you have to sacrifice. And very little do we sacrifice in our life. You know, we'll sacrifice this or something small, but to get back on here, that's not a sacrifice. That's an opportunity for you to understand what we as leaders go through. We've sacrificed. Mr. Nelson has sacrificed a lot to be here for you guys. And I want to thank him for that. every speaker. And with that said, we're going to get to part 2, what he didn't get a chance. And the reason why I cut that off, because I want to see how many of you really want to know. Because we don't want to make it easy. It's a problem. Everything in life's been easy. It should be a struggle. And then you'll pay more attention. With that said, Mr. Nelson, are you there, sir?
I am, sir.
Oh, there he is. Well, yeah. Let's see how many came back for part 2 today. We got 64 people. If I don't think we should do anything till we get at least 100 on here. But I guess go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Look at Belinda. She's like, no, I'm on here.
Diane Collins in Australia said, no.
She said, I'm worth 100. Look at Corey. He's like, no. We getting in. Need to get this in. See you, Celia. All right. Had to get my Snoopy on. Snoopy. All right. All right. Let's get this going. We were talking about habits and creating new habits. And when I create reset, I go to things my father gave me. I think I've shared before as I eat my crab legs, since Mr. Al Thomas last week got me jealous on some food. Working on my crab legs, king crab legs. I should be clear about it. But in that, he gave me Think and Grow Rich when I was 11. And he gave me an old VHS tape, for those that are old enough to know what a VHS tape is, when I was 13. I didn't really apply it until about 23. I didn't really activate it until 25. And I really didn't understand it until 30. And it's so simple. And I think about a month ago when I created, because if you don't get the results that you want, we talked this morning about execution. It's not about setting goals, it's about the execution of goals. And you got to look at, I know a lot of people that are great at getting customers, but as we talked about this morning, why don't you have a team? And people have this false pretense in their head about who they are. I did as well. And we still can create that, if that makes any sense, right? Because we have to tell ourselves a lie until it becomes the truth. But then you got to also understand, are you just telling a lie? Are you telling a lie? Meaning, are you moving towards the affirmation or the conversation or going to med school? See, if you're undergrad and then you go on to grad school and then you do the intern, that's about 9 years. For some 10 years, depending if you specialize in something, it could be 12 years, for what you're going to school for in med school. Does that make sense? You guys follow me on that so far? But they're saying I'm a doctor from the time they're in pre-med. But they finished the freshman year, the sophomore year, the junior year, the senior year. They finished the graduate school. They're now in the intern. They're moving towards their goal. In this situation, if you're not moving towards your goal, then you're just a liar. And you have to be, and this is a conversation for myself, talking to you, talking to me. When do you stop becoming a liar and plugging into something and just sitting in the stands? When do you get pissed off enough? Because like I said earlier this morning, I'm gonna applaud you because you're still standing, because most people have quit. They don't even plug in. They've gotten too emotional. They make things too personal. They're in for the wrong reasons. They're directing their energies at everything except for what's in the mirror and have not been honest with themselves. And that's gonna happen to all of us, because you're gonna get sidetracked. You're gonna have dips. You're gonna have ups, you're gonna have downs. But are you moving closer? You're going to get a D. You may have to make up a class. You may not be good at presentations. But the barometer is, first and foremost, the points, as we talked about as far as winning the game. And then secondly, who's following you? And I'll be honest, since, as we talk about television, which you're going to hear about that in a second in what I'm listening to, replace what he's talking about and what I'm going to share with you with television, with the internet, with social media. I have 10x my money in the last 3 months by not doing any social media. I'm going to say that again. In 3 months, my money has a minimum of 10x. Minimum. Now, this isn't a blast for people that utilize social media. If your social media is monetized and you're generating over 6 figures on social media, then keep doing it. But if your likes and your popularity and your Facebook and your Instagram and your TikToks and your podcast, and you're getting on there to see what somebody's doing or what you're doing is not generating you 6 figures, that to me is called now the stupid net. They have enrolled you in getting into being able to watch everything except for your own life. Because if you look at Gary Vee, if you look at Grant Cardone, if you look at Tony Robbins, if you look at anybody else that is an influencer in any industry, they're so focused on their industry of what they're doing and their effectiveness. Is everybody following me on that? Just not just this way in their craft. Gary Vee, if you look at his videos, you'll see, and he's not someone who I particularly like. I respect him. There's a lot of people, I never liked LeBron's game, but I respect him. This man, you can't, some people you have to respect their game. You have to respect who they are. You don't have to like them. But Gary Vee, if you look at his history of what he did in wine, what he did, how many hours he put in to be able to become a master within wine, how many hours he put in to become a master at collecting cards, what he's doing now with NFTs, then he has first accomplished 80% of the knowledge base that has been executed with velocity for results in order to monetize a minimum of 6 figures before he talks about anything. Notice what I said. He has put himself in a position to make a minimum of a high 6 figures before he puts himself on a podcast to talk about anything. And I had to pay attention because I was getting sucked into a rabbit hole in directions. And I'm just like, shut it off. You have specific financial goals. You have personal goals. I mean, I couldn't figure out why I couldn't, and me and Julian have had this conversation, why I couldn't get to the body that I wanted. I'm at 9.8% body fat. I'll be at 8% within the next 60 days. I didn't understand why I didn't have the relationship with God. I was too busy looking at myself or other people instead of having conversations with God. I couldn't understand why my money was at the same ceiling for about 2 or 3 years. And I understood that the time to take that money and make it make money was being sucked up because there's only 1,440 minutes in a day. Then you have to figure out who you're surrounding yourself with and what their conversations are.
Look. Here, that's for Byron Nelson. Pay attention to this guy, okay?
Is everybody with me? Yes or yes? Okay. The power of achieving your goals is not the focus, it's getting rid of the distractions. Please write that down. The power of achieving goals is not your power of focus, it's the power of not being distracted. And so in that last 90 days of what I've done, where you can be sucked in so many different directions instead of focusing on what's going to take you. It's March. I mean, we're in April. We're middle of April, you guys. You made resolutions 4.5 months ago. What has shifted? What paradigms have happened in your life? Not what wishes, what dreams are being realized on a daily basis that you're getting closer and closer. One week, you may have 7 extra points. The next week, you may have 70. I worked with Ty and Alicia, who you guys know are on here, as well as Sway and Maya, both about to have a baby within the next week or two, which is crazy. But the thing about it is, Ty and Alicia, they were listening, and in less than like a 30-day, I want to say a 30-day window, they accumulated over 200 points. Now, they went months without any success, and then boom, hit 200 points. Then they hit a milestone. Then they hit a brick wall again. Now I'm about to put them back in another. They're like, okay, I need the solution. Oh, I was waiting. I was waiting for you to get so pissed off and frustrated for my projects, the people that I work with, hand and foot, you know, to see Maya cry, it's like, and then and Sway, and to see, okay, I'm ready. I don't identify the leader, Mr. Al Thomas, Miss Jocelyn Driscoll. We don't identify you. You identify yourself. We don't listen to what somebody says. We watch what they do. I wait till a person gets so frustrated, but you can see the barometer. You can see it moving. If that makes sense. I have another young lady who just joined in my project, and she's just like, I didn't know. I'm ready. I'm okay. So I'm going to come back to this, but I want you guys to write down where I started this morning with goals of what I listen to after I pray. Because people ask me all the time, I'm sure Mr. Al Thomas gets the question all the time, how do you start your day? How does your day, what is your DMO? What is your daily mode of operation? And you heard Mr. Thomas talking about earlier today, preparation plus plan plus action. Preparation plus a plan plus action. You should, if you really want to get ahead of the curve, you should have your preparation the night before. So you know the 3 to 5 things you're going to accomplish the next day. So you can get up in the morning and hit it after your prayer and after your meditation, after your still time, you can hit the ground running. You don't have to figure out what you're going to do for the day. This is what champions do. I'm only talking from a champion perspective. You should already know that I'm going to accomplish getting 3 customers the next day. I'm going to get 5 customers the next day. I'm going to get 5 prospects the next day. I am going to get, by the end of this week, I'm going to have this many people in the funnel. I have specific goals, and it starts with the why, the what, and the how. The why makes me prepare the night before. If I have people coming over for a brunch, and I got 30 people coming to my house for a brunch at 9 a.m., do you start preparing at 8 in the morning? Or would you start preparing the day before and get everything you need? Why wouldn't you live your life like that every single day as if you're preparing a table for 12? That's going to hit somebody. Somebody's going to really hear in between my lines today. Why wouldn't you prepare the night before for your disciples so that you could be the example that they want to follow? So let's get into this. I want you to see this. You might want to take really good notes. I want you to pay attention to how many times he talks about goals. I want you to understand that this man is the one who actually, he is the descendant of Napoleon Hill. He is the father to Jim Rohn, who is the father to everybody else. But I'll say right behind him, you would have Tony Robbins, Mark Hughes, Darren Hardy, Mr. Al Thomas, Mr. Byron Nelson. This is the descendancy. If you want to go back to Abraham for this game, then you go back to Napoleon Hill. And you might want to open up that book and read the first chapter for 30 days. and read the same chapter over and 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 over. Don't read the book, stay in the same chapter, because you're missing something if you're broke. It doesn't say think and grow broke. It says think and grow rich. So you might want to stay in the first chapter, because if your checks, where your energy and your time are going within this opportunity, not your paycheck, not your 6-figure job, your 5-figure job, whatever job you have, not whatever craft you have that you got to depend on somebody else to write your check. But until you can write your own check, you probably missed the first chapter. You may say, I've read it 10, 11 times, 5 times, 3 times. You still missed the first chapter. You might want to spend the next 30 days just reading the first chapter until it's embedded in your subconscious. You'd be amazed at watching a movie today, like Notebook, or watching a movie today, like 300, or watching a movie today, whatever gets your boat floating, and then go back and watch it 3 years later, how much you forgot and how much you missed. Go back and watch the first Matrix. The second one subpar, the third one, But go watch the first one again. Go watch it again. Go watch John Q again and see how much you missed and how it applies. See, you're going to see something completely different now because you're in a different place in your life right now. You're a different person right now. So you need to catch something different right now. So if you go back and read Think and Grow Rich, you're going to see something different right now. And you might want to just, I don't know, follow the coaching of somebody who's already accomplished a little bit more than most and read that first chapter over and over and over. A billionaire taught me that. He said, it's boring becoming wealthy. Some of you have heard me talk about this. He said, it's boring becoming wealthy. Oh, what do you mean it's boring becoming rich and wealthy? He said, because it's called mastering the mundane. It's doing the same thing over and over and over and over. Everybody wants to be all creative. Everybody wants to do something new. Everybody wants to be inspired. Everybody wants to be motivated. Everybody wants to be colorful. Everybody wants to learn how to talk. Everybody wants to learn how to, but they haven't mastered just the basics. That's what I loved about John Wooden. Amazing book if you ever get a chance to read his book. He only has one. You don't have to go ask what the title is. His name is John Wooden. The winningest coach of all time for UCLA. 10 out of 11 times. It'll be different. See, Phil Jackson had the blessing of having Michael Jordan. Phil Jackson had the blessing of having Kobe. Phil Jackson had the blessing of having one extraordinary player and build talent around him, which gave him all the rings he got. But see, John Wooden, he lost players every year, every 2 to 3 years, and he still won 10 out of 11 times. He has to be one of the top 5 greatest coaches, not in basketball, in the history of athletics, period, on the planet Earth. He's right up there with Lombardi, for those who want to take on another coaching, appetite, of the greatest coaches of all time. And that's what you are. If you're in this game, you're aspiring to be a coach. You're aspiring. You aren't. Don't act like you're something you're not. You're growing into being someone who can coach somebody else because you've accomplished something. So we start with what? Actually, your why, your what, and your how. Your why, your what, and your how. We start with result-oriented business. Not what you know, but what you execute. Starting with your habits. If I had to pick one word before your habits, it would be your attitude. If I had to pick the first 2 words that you start your life with, if you wanted to push reset tonight in happy hour and you want to get really happy, start with your attitude and then apply it to your habits. Here we go. This is what my daddy gave me. He could have left me $1 billion and it wouldn't touch the book he gave me at 11 in this video I'm about to show you right now.
Back in 1956, I wrote and recorded something we called The Strangest Secret. Without advertising or fanfare of any kind, It outsold all other non-musical, non-entertainment type recordings. It's been heard by millions and millions of people throughout the free world, and in the process created a brand new industry. Learning through listening. On one of these solid-state cassette tape players. This player has revolutionized the learning process. Now people listen in their automobiles while driving to and from work and on sales calls, time that was formerly wasted, on their commuter train with the little earpiece, in the bathroom while shaving in the morning, at the dinner table with the children gathered around the table and the whole family together for a change. This has made a tremendous difference in the business of learning. But getting back to The Stranger's Secret, what makes a bestseller? What was there about that recording that caused millions of people to want to hear it over and over again and let their children hear it and play it for their employees and their sales forces? Well, I'm making a talk here today in which I'll cover the highlights and philosophy of The Stranger's Secret, and I'd like to invite you to join us, and I hope you find it of some value. I want to tell you the most interesting story in the world. Why a person becomes the person he becomes. Why a little boy or a little girl grows up to be the kind of person he or she becomes. Now, the estimates by the experts in this field are that most of us are using somewhere around 5% of our real potential. Some experts say as little as 1%. It means that we're only giving about 5% of ourselves to what we're doing, to our days, our work, our families, everyone we know, our entire environment. But it also means that we're only experiencing 5% of the fun, 5% of the joy, 5% of the rewards we could be knowing, or less. All the experts are agreed that in each of us, there are deep reservoirs of ability, even genius, that we habitually fail to use. Why? We know that most people desire by nature to succeed. But what is success? What is this word that has become so famous in the world? What does it mean? Most people don't know what success is all about. And since they don't know what it's about, they really don't know where to look for it. Success is really nothing more than the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. This means that any person who knows what he's doing and where he's going is a success. Any person with a goal toward which he's working is a successful person. This means that the boy in high school who's working toward a diploma, or the boy in college toward a degree, is just as successful as any human being on earth, because he knows what he's doing, why he's getting up in the morning, and where he's going. But conversely, if a person doesn't know what he's working toward, what it is he wants, doesn't have a goal toward which he's working, then he must, at least by this definition, be called unsuccessful. Why isn't then, with this simple definition, why isn't everyone successful? Should be easy. Yet surveys indicate that 19 out of 20, 95% at least, are not. In fact, a survey one time asked thousands of working men why they got up in the morning and went to work, and 19 out of 20 didn't know. 19 out of 20 working people didn't have the foggiest notion of why they got up in the morning and went to work. Under closer questioning, they said, well, everybody works. Well, that would be a good reason to quit. In fact, here's a little rule of thumb you might want to remember. Whatever the great majority is doing under any given circumstance, if you do exactly the opposite, you'll probably never make another mistake as long as you live. Just something to keep in the back of your mind. The problem with most people is that they're playing the world's most unrewarding game. And the name of the game is follow the follower. There's a story about a small town in which there was a jewelry store, and like all jewelry stores, or most jewelry stores at least, he had a big clock in his window. And every morning for years, he'd noticed a working man stop, adjust his pocket watch to the same time as the clock in the window. He'd been doing this for many years, and one morning the jeweler was out in front sweeping a sidewalk, and so he asked the man, he said, tell me, why do you adjust your watch to my big clock every morning? I've noticed you're doing that for years. The man said, well, I'm the foreman down at the big plant. He said, I want to make sure my watch is correct because I blow the quitting whistle every night at 5 o'clock. The jeweler looked at him rather strangely for a minute. He said, well, that's funny. He said, I've been setting that big clock in the window by that quitting whistle all these years. A very logical thing, but they could have been off 6 months. It was a case of a person just going along with what he thought to be correct without checking his references. So I want to suggest that from now on out, at least we do that we check our references and ask ourselves, are the people I'm following going where I want to go? Let me tell you the story of what we might call the average young man in our society. Now, from the time this boy is born, there's only one thing on earth he can do, and that's to begin to think, act, and talk like the people by whom he's surrounded. This is all in the world he can do. But right off the bat, the odds are 95 to 5 that he's thinking, acting, and talking like the wrong group. They're wonderful people. They love him. They'd do anything in the world for him. They want him to succeed. But the odds are 95 to 5 they haven't got the answers he needs if he's to reach fulfillment as a human being, if he's to reach this success that he wants, if he's to reach into these deep reservoirs of ability and genius we know he possesses and draw it out. Well, he starts in school. The most important thing to a little boy in school is to be liked by the other little boys in school. And so at this tender age, he begins to follow other little boys his same age who don't know any more than he knows and who do not necessarily have any capacity for leadership. And he does this in the first grade, and the second, and the third, and the fourth, and the fifth, and the sixth, and the seventh, and the eighth, and year after year after year, he forms himself into a composite average of other little boys his age, trying to be like them, trying to do the only thing in the world that's impossible for a human being to do, which is to be like somebody else. Now, let's say he goes all the way through school, usually goes in the military service. Again, he's caught in a vice-like grip of conformity. Now, let's say he's 25 years old, out of school, out of service. What's he going to do? As a rule, he'll go back to his hometown, unless he's married, in which case he'll go to his wife's hometown. But let's say he goes back to his own hometown, he's single, he doesn't know quite what to do, and he's standing on a corner one morning, and a friend that he knew in school comes up and says, hi there, Charlie, what are you doing? He says, nothing. He said, why don't you come down and work where I work? It's a pretty good place, the pay's regular, we got all kinds of fringe benefits and so on, and so he does. The odds are about, again, 95 to 5 that his first job is taken as a result of random application. On the job, without thinking about it, the most natural thing in the world for him to do is to look around, see how the other guys are doing their job, and to begin doing his the same way, assuming that what is normal for them is normal for him. No reason for this. He doesn't think about it. He just does it. Now, he has stretching in front of him 50 years or more in the golden age that man has been dreaming of since the days of ancient Greece. What's he going to do with these 50 golden years? Well, let's take a close look at him. We know that he works 40 hours a week as a rule. 40 hours a week, which leaves him 72 hours a week when he's neither working nor sleeping. 72 free discretionary hours each week to do with as he pleases. Now, at this point, of course, he's married. He has his little house and his little car. And this is about what he does with his free 72 hours every week. He'll do what the other fellows are doing with their free 72 hours every week, which is virtually nothing at all. On a typical day, he'll quit right on the dot, get in his little car, go to his little house, go in his little kitchen, kiss his little wife, and say, I'm tired. They've even figured out why he says that. The experts believe that he used to hear his father say that back when men used to get tired working during the day, and he picked it up and he repeats this every night when he gets home. He bolts his little meal and then heads for the living room where he turns on his escape box. Click. Takes 15 or 20 seconds for the screen to light up, a period of time he finds interminable, but he gets through it somehow. Maybe kicks the dog or thumbs through a magazine or something. But then the screen lights up and he does too a little bit, and there in front of him he sees people in all kinds of funny old-time costumes all killing each other at a great rate. One expert has agreed that the average family can see more death and bloodshed and carnage on his television set in a week than Crassus saw when he crucified 6,000 prisoners on the southern road to Rome. But you know how those experts are. He could certainly be off one or two. But he sits there for about 5.5 or 6 hours. 25% of all free time now is spent in front of the tube, according to the latest statistics. Now, there's nothing wrong with this particularly, except that he's watching other people who are earning excellent incomes in the pursuit of their careers, while he doesn't make a nickel and gets the only two things you can get from watching TV on that kind of a schedule. He gets red eyes and a hollow head. Now, this is not meant to be an indictment of television. I've got a couple of television sets at home, too. I have a couple of cars at home, too, but I don't go home at night and drive around the block for 6 hours. If there's someplace I want to go, fine. My car will take me there. If there's a great program, like a golf match or something like that, I want to see it. But he sits there for 6.5 hours until finally his wife, who's a little more practical than he is, taps him on the shoulder and she said, Charlie, I think it's about time you went to bed. You've got to get up in the morning, go to work. And he's okay, and he shuts it off. He knows how to do that. He just shuts it off and goes to bed. Next morning he gets up and he does this all over again. He does this every day for 40 years. At the end of 40 years, he's retired, which always kind of catches him by surprise. No one's ever figured that one out either. And then he dies at 85 or 90, the way medical science is moving us along, out of sheer boredom. Well, what's the problem? Is there a tragedy here? Not really, if that's the way Charlie wants to spend his life, our mythical, hypothetical young man. If he wants to spend his life that way, that's his business. He lives in a free society, he can do anything with it he wants. But there's a terrible tragedy here if he's living that way because of the total lack of a decision. If he's living that way simply because he's still doing what he was doing in the first and second grade, and that's going along with the fellas up and down the block on the unspoken assumption that they know how to live, then there's a real tragedy there. Because they've never known how to live, not in all the recorded history of mankind. He never finds out who he is. He never reaches into the deep depths of his abilities, his talents. He never learns that he can have just about anything he wants in the world, that he can call his own shots, tell his own fortune. And it's kind of a pity. Well, what's needed? Well, what's needed, I think, is a checklist, like an airplane pilot uses. I think that living successfully is as important as flying an airplane. And here's some of the things that I think should be on that checklist that could help this man live a more meaningful, more interesting, more exciting, more enjoyable life. The first thing that he ought to have on his checklist, in my opinion, is the word a goal. A man without a goal is like a ship without a rudder. He doesn't know where he's going. He then belongs to that 95% that are just living day by day, month after month, like a starfish or an amoeba. He needs to know where he's going. Back in the early days of navigation, sailors used to see a strange sight in the Antarctic. They'd see a giant iceberg towering high out of the sea, and it would be moving against the wind. The wind would be blowing this way. The great iceberg would be moving right into the teeth of the wind. And this, of course, frightened the sailors whose ships were powered by the wind, until it was discovered that, of course, only a fraction of the great berg was visible, and that its huge, ponderous roots were caught in the great currents of the ocean. And it was being borne purposefully along its way, regardless of the winds and the tides on the surface. Well, this is what a man needs. He needs his roots deep in a great main stream of his own choosing, and then he'll move along his way, regardless of the winds on the surface of his life or short-term expediency, and he'll get to where he's going. The second word on our checklist might be the word attitude. It's been called the most important word in any language in the world, because it's our attitude toward our world, toward all the people in it, that will determine the world's attitude and all the people's attitude toward us. It's a simple thing. Most of us know it, but we tend to forget it. People will react to us according to our attitude. And our attitude is the greatest gift we can be given. You know, the little creatures of the world were given a wonderful gift by Mother Nature called protective coloring, in which they can blend into their background without being seen. But man was not given this great gift, because man was given an incalculably greater one. Only man has the godlike power to make his surroundings change to fit him, because his environment will change as he changes. A man's environment is a merciless mirror of him as a human being. And if he thinks his environment can stand a little improvement, all he has to do is improve, and his environment will improve to reflect the changing man. Third would be the word think. To think. The highest function of which a human being is capable. It was put pretty well by the great Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright Archibald MacLeish in his great play, The Secret of Freedom, in which he has one of his characters say, "The only thing about a man that is a man is his mind. Everything else you can find in a pig or a horse." It's true. And so if we're going to develop something, this is a good place to start. To think deliberately and with a purpose. To spend a little time each day before a blank sheet of paper with our goal perhaps written at the top, and come up with some fresh, new, and exciting ideas. The next point on our checklist you might call the law of laws. That's what Emerson called it, this great old law of cause and effect. That our rewards in life will always be in exact proportion to our contribution, to our service. We all know this, really. We tell our children in Sunday school that as ye sow, so shall ye reap, but we forget that that's true. If a man is unhappy with his rewards, all in the world he's got to do is find ways of increasing his contribution, his service. It's like the story of the preacher who was driving down a country road, and all of a sudden he came to the most magnificent farm he'd ever seen in his life. It was beautiful. And so he saw the farmer approaching the road on his tractor, and so he hailed him, and he said, "My good man," he said, "God has certainly blessed you with a magnificent farm." And the farmer thought for a moment, and he said, "Yes, you're right, he certainly has. But you should have seen this place when he had it all to himself." And the preacher had his sermon for the next Sunday. He realized that all the farmers up and down that road had been given the same land, but one man had made something great out of it. Well, all of us are given the same land. We're given a human life, and each of us can make something great out of it too if we want to. The next point might be simply the word truth. Since everything we do has an equal and opposite reaction, unless what we're doing is based on truth, we're building on sand, and it can't stand. The next point would be R&D, research and development. None of us would want to work for a company or invest our money in a company that didn't have a very viable research and development department. That is, pumping a good percentage of its profits back into research and development because its future depends on it. But so does a man's. And you might ask yourself, how much of your own take-home pay have you spent during the past year for materials calculated to make you smarter this year than you were a year before? Calculated to make you a little better, a little bigger as a human being, to perhaps love a little more and hate a little less and do a little better job than you did a year ago. How much money are you pumping back into yourself and your future? It's worth thinking about. And finally, the strangest secret. At the beginning, I said, what makes a child grow up into the human being he becomes? Well, this is the reason for that. Of course, he's the confluence of a genetic pool that goes back for thousands and thousands of years. His environment has an influence on him, of course. But what makes him become the person he becomes is that he becomes what he thinks about most of the time. It's as simple as that. We become what we think about most of the time. And that's the strangest secret. This is why thinking is so vital. This is why a goal is so important. Because we will become that. This is why people who set goals achieve them. The trouble with men is not in achieving their goals. They do that. It's in establishing them. Well, that's about it. I think it's good to remember that if we just go along with the crowd, we won't wind up with much more than the wish that we could do it all over again, and as far as we know, you can't. If we want to amount to anything as individuals, we need individual goals, individual thinking, individual actions. And we must never conform to the big group. We must love them, we must help them, we must serve them, because our whole success will depend on our ability to do these things. But never lose our own individuality and our identity by permitting ourselves to become submerged in what has historically proved itself to be little more than a suffocating sea of indirection and purposelessness. If we want to emulate someone, fine, but let's be choosy in whose steps we follow. It's the only life we've got. And remember to think. Imagination is everything, and we can become what we can imagine. If you find yourself getting depressed and down at the mouth, as we all get once in a while, you might want to remember this quotation by Dean Briggs. He said, "Do your work. Not just your work and no more, but a little more for the lavishing's sake. That little more which is worth all the rest. And if you suffer as you must, and if you doubt as you must, do your work. Put your heart into it, and the sky will clear. And then out of your very doubt and suffering will be born the supreme joy of life." Believe it or not, in an age when we've come to nearly deify leisure time, we've almost lost sight of the fact that virtually all our satisfactions, rewards will come not from our leisure, but from our work. And don't forget the strangest secret. We become what we think about.
So when you think about that, yeah, exactly, Diane. If you actually listen to that over and over and over and over, just like in Think and Grow Rich, and you really do some of the things that we have taught and trained for the last years, and you actually kept a journal And you've heard me say a life that's not being recorded is not worth living. So wherever your thoughts are, that's where your energy flows. But if you listen to just that 20 minutes, the first thing that comes to mind that you need to understand, for anyone that's ever heard my presentation, that was a full presentation. That was an ACM presentation. If I heard that man speak in front of a room or on a Zoom, and then he said, I'm looking for 3 people that want to shift their life, I'm in. 99.9% of the people that get into my business have no idea what they've gotten into, because I've sold them not ACN, gigawatts, fiber optic, and telecom, but I've sold them their life back. So I've become a student, as Mr. Al Thomas and so many other leaders that have achieved SVP and above. They've become a master of life. So when you're studying, whether you're reading or, like I said, the new encyclopedia is YouTube based on what you're looking at online, then the mastery of it is like, people will hear me speak, oh, he's such a great speaker. Not really. I just stole words from everybody else that was before me that was great. Darren Hardy, Earl Nightingale, Napoleon Hill, Jim Rohn, Sir Richard Branson, Les Brown. The list is very long. I just did R&D, rob and duplicate. When you look at the language that I've duplicated, a vice-like grip of conformity, that's powerful. Just that word, those words alone, and if they come out of your mouth, they'll actually sound like you own that. You'll actually sound intelligent. It's amazing how most people are just like in a vice-like grip of conformity. Try it. Say it. You'll impress yourself. You'll actually, when I ask people to do a presentation, they start stumbling over words. I'm like, why are you trying to use your own words? They haven't worked for you your whole life. That's why your income is where it is right now. Why don't you steal Mr. Al Thomas's mind or somebody else's that's already had success? When you look at a confluence of a genetic pool, try it. It sounds intelligent. I actually sound like it's mine. If I didn't show you this video, you'd be like, damn, that boy, he's good. A confluence of a genetic pool. What the hell? A sufferless sea of indirection. What? A sufferless sea of indirection of people that work a job all the time. Man, that Negro there, oh boy. He must have got a PhD. He got a doctorate. This boy is intelligent. Imagination. What? Deify leisure. Whoa. Most people, they just deify leisure. That's what they spend their life. Man, he sounds like he knows whatever he's talking about, I need to hear. Why? Because I'm great at R&D and I steal from great minds. I don't try. If I use my own words, I sound like you guys. And what we're doing is, and we have an amazing opportunity, and what we can do is, we help people. Why do you keep using your own words? It's all here. You got 20 minutes will mentally mess you up for the next year if you just study this video every day. And then you guys get stuck on just certain parts, like who's taking notes of each point. And then who's writing down, like I have my team on my projects, and I said, and we were watching a gentleman on a training, and I said, what part of that did you capture? My leaders are on call. They'll know what I'm talking about. I said, well, what did you see? What part of that captured you? And they said they were focused on what this person said, what that person said. And I said, you're missing it. See, you haven't become so aligned with your goals and your dreams that you miss certain things. You got 6 senses. You got the 6th sense that starts to capture certain things. Not just your touch, not just your feel, not just your sight, not just your sound, not just your hearing. But while they were talking and an interview was going on, I'm asking them, and I asked them, I said, what in this? And we had a video just like that. I said, what did you see? And they said this, what did you hear? What captured you the most? And they said, this part of the conversation, this part of the conversation, this part of the conversation. And I said, the only thing I really saw that captured me was the one book he had on his bookshelf standing alone, which normally I do when I don't have Snoopy up there. It depends on the day that you catch me. I either have a book or I have Snoopy that I highlight behind me where Snoopy's picture is that I'm studying. He had a full bookshelf. I was trying to zoom in, pause, and you get all the other 8, 10 books he had on his shelf, but he had one that stood alone, which means that book had to mean something. If I get what he's downloading in his head, I don't need to understand anything else that he's done. Because now I'm the student that he is. I'm getting the information he got. I'm studying what he's studying. I'm going to get the results that he gets in the application of the information that I'm downloading. When you have an extraordinary leader, one of your first pre-qualified questions you should be asking Mr. Alton, what are you reading right now? Because if I figure out what you're reading, I don't need to know anything else from you. I don't need to know how you talk. I don't need to know how you did this. I don't need to know how you did that. I don't need to know how you blocked all the noise. I don't need to know how you got all your prospects. I don't need to know how you got 100 customers. I don't need, if I get the information that created who you are to design your life, where you stole the information from someone before you that was a master. And I'm the understudy to become a master, not just be in the camp, just another face on the screen. But I'm here to be a master. 7th-degree black belt in success. Then if I get that, I'm done. Who wrote down Archibald's book, Secret of Freedom? Who wrote down Emerson's book on law of cause and effect? Who wrote down Dean Briggs? See, I'm getting, if I get who he's been studying in each one, I learned a secret when I first started of the greatest leaders of all time, including Greg Provenzano. They're all storytellers. I look for some of the most amazing stories of the teacup, for those who have heard me talk about the teacup, or the caterpillar, that turned into a butterfly, or the worm that was inching all the way to the top of a tree. And the bird was like, it's wintertime. What are you doing inching to the top? Where are you going? We're going south. Why are you going north? Where are you going? To the top of the tree. Why are you going to the top of the tree in wintertime? It's an apple tree. There's no apples on it. It's wintertime. You have no vision, he said to the bird. By the time I get to the top of the tree, it'll be springtime and they'll be full of apples. I want to get to the best fruit, which is at the top, not low fruit. Every great leader has mastered stories. Mr. Al Thomas tells stories. Your pastor tells stories. The only people that you remember outside, and I would say even your mother or father, the greatest people that have ever been in your life, they had two things that always, that's why you remember them, that made the biggest difference in your life. They were either the most anal military disciplinarians in your life. You hated them growing up. But those disciplines were flagships. They were what I call light poles that guided you in your life, that saved you from some crap in your life. Whether it's your mother, your father, a mentor, a teacher, a coach, it saved you from whatever it was. You disliked them when you were growing up, but as you got older and wiser, you understood why they were such an asshole and so anal about these specific rules. They developed who you are today. And the second person you remember the most is the one who told the best stories. All the way time that's why when you were a child, it's called bedtime stories. When they turn on the news, they say the story tonight. When you look at the newspaper, it's the story of the day. Everything in life, because nobody's going to remember. You're great at facts. You got people that break down all the facts and all. Well, I can remember when you did this, and let me give you all the information. I don't need the information because the brain is not absorbing facts. It's absorbing stories. And the story was, if you do this, you will get that. The Quran, the Bible, any book that you come up with, the Gita, I don't care what book you want to use. I can go through all of them for you. They're built on stories. What I told you this morning about Peter casting his net and then he moved it over, that's a story. Abednego, a story. The wise men going all the way across land, a story. Raising from the dead, 3 days, Easter, a story. How many stories you want? I can go through every book. I can go, Ruth, a story. Moses, a story. Father Abraham, a story. The discipleships, the betrayal of Christ, a story. You name something, it's a story. Why wouldn't you get amazing at just taking stories and have a journal just for new stories? He just did a full ACM presentation without a marketing plan as to why you need to change your life. And the person that's ready to change their life is going to resonate with that entire conversation. I don't have to drag or convince or get somebody into my business. I'm speaking from a place of truth of what resonates with me. And if this person believes what I believe, if this person believes in being wealthy as I believe in being wealthy, if this person believes in generational wealth as I believe in generational wealth, if this person believes in learning financial literacy as I believe in financial literacy, if this person believes in residual income as I believe in residual income, if this person believes that in a year's time, their entire life can change and we can do it together as I believe we can do it, if this person believes within the next week, I can actually create a machine that creates ETLs every week that will get me to RD. And if I duplicate that process and my team that I built to get to RD helps me duplicate more ETLs, I can get to RVP. And if my team at RVP and my RDs create the system of just duplicating ETLs, I can get to SVP. And the ones that have the finish line in mind, they're all going to keep going and duplicate and get to the finish line. They don't have to figure out what to say or how to say it or what to do. All I got to do is create an ETL machine. But no, we want a high sign as soon as we get to ETL. We want to park our car because we hit RD and somebody clapped for you. That how many times in that conversation did he talk about goals? What are your financial goals? This is a business. What is your April goal financially? Oh, if you don't hit it, you just go back because you're used to getting paid the way you pay your bills, the way you live your life. You're okay with every month having employed yourself and not getting paid. That's what you see. I mean, that's how you see yourself. It's like, I'm okay. I talked about this morning about finding pain and pleasure, that pain threshold. That my pre-qualifier is, have you been through hell? Did you get to hell and just park your car and it's like you learn how to adapt? And what's worse about that is if you have kids or if you have nieces or if you have nephews or if you have people that look at you, they're looking at you like, I guess it's okay to be here. That's why, especially in Black America, so many in Latin America and minority America, if you will, or around the world, it doesn't matter what country you're from, they have 3-4 generations of people in jail. Because they've made it okay. Grandpa's in jail. Daddy's in jail. I guess it's okay for me to be in jail. Over 45% of people in jail have a sibling, a child, or a relative in jail with them. Because they've made it okay. Can't be that bad. Success duplicates itself. Success leaves clues. You need to create some new habits. You need to isolate yourself to attract new people that are going where you want to go. Not talk about what you want to talk about, that are doing what you want to do. Well, as Mr. Graves, Nightingale would say, that's about it. The strangest secret is you become what you think about most of the time. If you think you're lonely, you'll be lonely. If you think that you're single and you're going to be single for the rest of your life, you'll be single. If you think that, you know, you aren't worthy, you probably are going to, whatever you think about is if you think that everybody's an ass and, you know, that, you know, everybody's out to get you or everybody's, you know, going to cheat on you, or, you know, if you think that, you know, wherever your mind goes, if you think I'm broke, then you probably are going to be broke. It's like, well, whatever it is. But if you think 24/7 that I'm wealthy, don't look at where I am, look at where I'm going. Just keep watching. Because you can't do and talk at the same time. You might want to write that down. You can't do and talk at the same time. Either you're talking or you're doing. If you're doing, it speaks so loud that everybody hears you. One of my greatest adages and cliches of all time. Your actions speak so loud, I can't hear a word that you're saying. Your actions speak so loud, I can't hear a word that you're saying. Well, that's my happy hour. I'm gonna get back to my crap with Julian, Mr. Al Thomas. Anybody wanna, any questions, curiosities? It's happy hour. I'm happy. Anybody else happy? I'm really happy. I woke up and I expected miracles, and miracles just keep happening every single day. You guys are a miracle for me in this moment. I believe in miracles, but you have to be one before you look for them. You have to be a miracle before you look for miracles. You know, I had a conversation with, you know, you want to be, you know, and obviously Maya and Sway, as well as Ty and Elise here, two of my projects. As I said, my goal is 7. But you want to get into a point where, yes, I'm the godfather to both their children. They aren't born yet. And so I had a conversation, and hopefully they'll give me a pass on putting their business out there. And we had a conversation today. Should I go back to work? You know, thinking about going back to work for 6 months. I need to figure out, if I do this, can I do that? Is this possible in the next year? And I went back to the conversation with them. I said, you're not allowed to work. See, I take godparent very seriously. That means that God sent me to be a second parent in case something happens to you, and nothing can happen to you if you're underneath my veil. So if you're in my care, you're in my protection. I'm like the mafia, truly. My family, I really am. So if you're in my care, then you're not allowed to work, because my child, birthed by the two of you, cannot grow up seeing you possibly still working a job and getting in that trap. So whatever I need to do to support you, to make sure you never go back to work, and teach you how to diversify, leverage, and take this generator and this machine of ACN that is underneath the matrix umbrella, you will not be working. Which in my coaching, because you trusted to ask me that, I now have to commit myself to making sure that I do my part, so long as you show up, as they always do. Now we're committed to going, we're all committed. You will be an RVP before this year is out, and you will be an SVP in under 3. Because they've already tested positive for being a lifer. So if you're a lifer and you've tested positive, then now you give me permission, because I asked permission to coach you and tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And if I have that permission, then no, you're unemployable. You just don't know it yet, but I do. But people have to earn that right. It's not just something that I want to be, because I can't hear you because your accent speaks so loud that you will get a Al Thomas or a Jocelyn or anybody else that, you know, whoever it is that you choose. The floor is yours. This is a happy hour. I'm happy. Me and Snoopy are happy.
Mr. Nelson, can you please repeat the 3 books that you said? I couldn't write them down fast enough, please.
No, I'm going to send you the video. We're going to change your thing. You aren't going to ask for the books. You're not going to ask me to spoon feed you, especially since you're one of my projects. You're going to get the video and you're going to take copious notes and watch it every day for the next 30 days. That's what you're going to do. And you're going to listen for the books in it.
I posted the video in the chat. It's in the chat.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any questions, curiosities, conversations? Any takeaways? Let's start there. Some of your biggest takeaways, something that maybe a mule kicked you in the head and maybe you're awake.
Yeah, takeaway. You become what you think about most of the time.
Yes.
So to me, that means I got to go back to my goal setting and focus on making sure that that's the loudest conversation.
The loudest conversation. That's how I got to RVP. That's how I got to SVP. That's all I thought about. It has to get done. It has to get done, as well as the income that comes with it. 100%. Financial goals, business goals. So not just the status, but put next to that what you will stand for. Like everybody has a bar in their head, right? Financially in your bank. I want you guys to get this is a whole nother lesson. I do not want to go down this rabbit hole, but everybody has a bar in their head in your bank account that when it gets to a certain level, you get nervous. Some people it's $200, some is $500, some is $5,000, some is $10,000. Like for me, if my bank account gets close to $30,000, which is like the reserve slush fund, like the last hope, I freak out. Now it used to be $300, but that's like the last bucket of 7 buckets of where my money lives. There's 7 buckets of money. That's a class for another day. Maybe I'll cover that next Friday. But in that last bucket, if I deplete or make too many mistakes and get down to that last bucket and it goes $1 under 30K, I freak out. Now it used to be where I was like $50, $300, $1,000. It's different for each person. You have to grow that muscle for whatever it is your living style is. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. So it's the same thing when it comes down to understanding this business. If I didn't generate X amount of success when I'm on the treadmill, when I'm in the game, when I put on my jersey, I freak out and I get pissed off and angry. And so now it's a matter of translating that into my projects and me becoming them so that I can go back to what it was for me to be that person. So if you're an RD or above, again, even in ETL, how long have you been in the game and who's following you? Who actually listens to, who calls you and says, in your organization, now you may have confidants in people at your job and people that you've helped and people you've blessed in your plantation of wherever you work, whether you're a doctor or whether you're a plumber or whether you're a janitor. I'm talking about here. You planted your seed here. You sowing seed here. You're planting your flag here. So in this game of where ACN writes your check in your organization that is building, who calls you and says, should I go get a job or not? What should I do with my income? How do I invest my money? How am I more effective with my time? Not how do I get a customer? How do I launch a rep? Not how do I, what's the rate of gas and electricity? How do I get a cell phone customer? How do I use social media to acquire customers? How do I deal with cold market? No, I didn't say that. Who's coming to you with life decisions? That's when you know you have a lifer. That's when you know that you are becoming a leader. Until then, you're a liar. Because nobody's following you. Not here. Maybe somewhere else. And if that's what you're proud about, then get out of this and go do that. But if you're going to do this, then do it. Do your work. When it gets cloudy as it will, do your work. When doubt kicks in, do your work. When doubt and fear and when nothing, do your work. When you have massive, do your work. It's all in that video, by the way.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes, yes.
So my greatest takeaway was just that. I wrote it down. I was like, how important it is to ask questions of yourself and those around you so you can gain like introspection and gain clarity and perspective. Because yesterday, that's exactly what my takeaway was when I shared with you, well, the team yesterday on our call, where I was at in terms of my goals. And so, and then as you were playing the video today, and then this ongoing conversation this past hour, that's exactly what my takeaway was. Just how important it is that we ask ourselves questions and ask those around us questions.
Definitely. But be careful of who you ask. The only thing I'm gonna add.
Sure.
There's some people that their opinion, just all you gotta do is look at a person and see if they're living the life that you want to live. I just had this conversation with my son. So, you know, it's like, he's seeing me in a position where I have an office. When he was in, and now I'm being transparent, I'm just sharing. My son was in a position where he was actually, and hopefully he can't hear me because I don't like putting his business out there like that, but he was in a position where he was in his first year of college and he was on the brink of suicide. He had suicidal tendencies. There's a whole thing that led up to that. You know, it's a whole millennial thing. It's different today. And I was like, oh, hell no. So I went and got him. I gave him 3 choices. I said, I can get you a place. You can stay with dad, have an extra place in my office, or you can go and stay at my house. I was like, daddy's taking care of mom. So that's why daddy sold the penthouse. Now he's seeing where I have him, where we're in school together. You guys know my story about what we did on New Year's Eve this year and how we redesigned everything. Now he's seeing the office that I'm in, where I'm buying the building. And at the same time, while we're actually going and we've been shopping for a duplex, so he's understanding how to go, and he's actually living in the smaller unit, and he's actually learning everything right now as far as we're redesigning the office, and we already knocking down the wall for the other office next door for expansion, how daddy actually puts down the tile and puts in the bathroom and does everything that I was taught when I was a child at 15 years old. My father didn't just buy a building and help me buy property. He made me do all the work, from the weeds to the interior to the exterior to the landscape, everything. He made me put in sinks. He made me sit up there, put in tiles. He made me put on a roof. I did everything. It's one of the things I'm proud about Fatnay doing in regards to watching her go and get her first building and doing everything herself as a woman. I mean, which is beyond words, but I mean, I watched her now, you know, set herself up in Airbnb, and now and we set this out when we first had our first conversation, and I brought her into the business. She's like, I want to expand and have more Airbnbs. This is how many I want to get. And watching her see that happen, just in her mindset of the decisions that she's making. And so now being able to get him a duplex and say, look, this isn't something I'm gifting you. I'm not giving you jack, but you're purchasing. Being able to find his gaming and cost $70,000, and him have to earn his own $70,000 in a 45-day window to generate $45,000, because he sees what daddy is doing on the other side, and learn my techniques of generating positive cash flow of what I did. Like I told y'all, 10X in less than 3 months. It will be 100X. But this mentality of generating that you own it. It's a different way of thinking, but you have to have people around you that are moving in that direction, because one drop of oil can completely depurify some water. So you got to be careful about the people. That's why I said, even to Judith right then, be careful of who you're talking to in any capacity. You think it's just one little conversation. That one little conversation, weeds don't need water. I'm going to say that again. Weeds don't even need dirt. They will find a way to grow in the middle of concrete, of just a crack. Be very careful. It's the distractions. Great takeaway, though. Mr. Al Thomas, you still with me? Beautiful picture. Okay. He said he wasn't going to be talking anymore. Any questions, takeaways, anything else? I'm good for happy hour. I'm really happy.
Yes, sir. I'm still here. I've got you on mute.
Okay.
And I'm looking at this beautiful sunset down here in Newport Beach, man. And I miss it. Listen, I haven't missed a word you have said. Not a word. Matter of fact, I'm going to go back and watch this video on Sunday. Probably not Sunday, definitely Monday. But I haven't missed a word you said. And you know what? It's so profound and so beautiful that you displayed in such a way that everybody can understand it. And it's piercing everybody's heartstrings.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, what he's saying is, you're the greatest gift that God had made, is you.
Mm-hmm.
And Earl Nightingale, man, I haven't seen that in so long. It's like one of the true leaders of thought, of forward thinking back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And there you have him, Earl Nightingale.
Awesome.
Man, I've taken 3 or 4 pictures with him. It's part of my wall of fame of knowing Earl Nightingale, book signed by him, chance to share the stage with him at a young buck. So my God, you went back. You went way, way back.
Yeah.
You know, I was just reminiscing with Earl Nightingale and also with W. Clement Stone, and also with famous. I mean, man, you're talking about lineage. You're talking about the man. Woo. I don't know. Some of y'all ain't gonna get this, but I'm gonna tell you something. He went back for the lineage, like you said, of Christ, the lineage. I mean, but of PMA, positive mental attitude.
Yeah.
I mean, Think and Grow Rich is the #1 Bible book of business, if I could say it that way.
Yeah, 100%.
And everything else stems from those guys and myself. I'm in the downline of all this. I mean, my God, I was lucky and fortunate. Matter of fact, one of the most expensive books I have in my library is a book by Og Mandino, autographed, signed, a leatherback book of 1,000 books. I got book number 343. And I tell you what, that's the most expensive, priceless book in my library. And I tell you what, that book is right on my desk. It doesn't get far from me. I won't let it. I mean, folks, you guys need to understand what Mr. Nelson gave you tonight. Some of you are young, you might have missed that, but trust me, he gave you guys, I mean, this was a jewel, because when you talk about lineage and like he talked about tonight, I'm sitting there going, holy mackerel. This is something that, you know, some of you, your fathers and grandfathers might have missed it, but what Mr. Nelson gave you is a way to look at history tonight. How do you see the future? By looking and studying the past. He's giving you a glimpse of the past, and some of you may not understand it. Some of you do know this, who are Earl Nightingale, but he gave you a glimpse into your future. And how you see the future is by looking backwards into the past. And sir, I just want to say you brought some things back out of me that I mean, my God, was so instrumental in my life that made me the man that I am today. So I want to say thank you for the insight. Folks, some of you may not get it, but if you can, watch that video, like you said, over and over again. Read the book. Oh, what do you say, that 4th chapter? A whole month. Just read it again. Teletubbies. Again. Yeah, do it again and again and again. Get the fullness of it. You know, I was watching something the other day that I've seen in a long time, a video, and man, it's brought back, and I saw stuff I never saw before. And I've seen this video 5 times. You know, and I think the 6th time I saw it, it's like, oh my God, I missed that part. Oh, I missed that part. And just bringing things back into the fold. Whew. Guys, you guys, I'm right now, if I was out walking, I'd be floating right now on what he given you tonight. So with that, there's any more questions that anybody have? Because I am just excited about what I heard tonight. And that video of Earl Nightingale, man, that brought back some memories. I mean, my billionaire mentor, Peter Daniels, who's a billionaire in Australia, Earl Nightingale. I mean, I could go down the lineage. Like you said, you could study who the greats have studied. We all studied the same great people. We all started that same downline. And with that said, does anybody have any question for Mr. Nelson tonight? If not, we're going to cut the call because, like I said, my goodness.
Thank you,
yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. So I just like to piggyback, and my takeaway from what we've been learning is, the self-development, becoming, like being the leader that you want the people to follow, like being your own leader. Like, so if you're not the leader that is following you, like pretend you're following you. Like I want to become the leader that I would follow.
Yes.
So I need to prepare myself for the future already in now.
Yes.
And becoming. So showing who I am to my lineage, my people.
There you go.
Who I want to be.
Awesome, man. Beautiful takeaway.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
More than welcome.
You know, this is Al Thomas here, Mr. Dave, and I'm going to say one thing. We've all heard this, and it's cliche as it may sound. Art Williams said it, and I'm going to say this for you, Dave, Mr. Dave. 3 powerful words, my friend, and everybody listening, not just Mr. Dave. 3 powerful words. Just do it. God, guys, quit getting the paralysis of analysis. I'm going to get no, just do it. It's just so simple to do. Like Mr. Nelson said, we just got to do it. There's nothing to analyze, nothing to program. Just do it. It's simple. We think we need all this gizmo, that gizmo, this person's acceptance. No, Earl Nightingale said it. Don't follow the masses. Just be different by going out and just doing it.
And do it, and do it, and do it.
And do it. That's right. It's just that simple. And here's the funny part. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. Mr. Payon, if you're out there, can you share? Watch this. Mr. Payon was shy talking to people. I got him going out the first day. He couldn't get 3 names and numbers. The next day I said, okay, you owe me 6. And I'm not going to put his business on the street. I said, give me, okay. Now he's doing 3 or 4 names every single day over in Japan. And he doesn't speak Japanese that well. So it goes back to what Mr. Nelson said, your desire. How bad do you want it?
Yeah.
You know, we get this paralysis. Excuse me for saying this, and I don't mean to talk, but look, we're getting this paralysis of look. Al Thomas is the dumbest guy you ever run into. I don't know a lot of this stuff. People amazing, like, man, I said, no, I don't. But what I do have is the desire and tenacity to keep going to number after number. You guys see me on Wednesday. Hey, I'll call people up Wednesday who just seen the video, call them up, and I'll bottom line them. We want you on the team, sign up. And you see me sign them up live. Last Friday, when I was in California again, I was up in Fresno. You saw me sign a guy up right there on the phone and got his IT. Look, folks, look, this is not a setup. This is real stuff. You're just so freaking afraid of what they're saying about you, thinking about you. Get off your rear end, get off your pride, your ego. Go out there and set yourself on fire. As the saying goes, the world will come out and watch you burn. Look, let me ask you a question. If I said to every one of you, you have 24 hours to get at least 5 points or 1 IBON or your life's over, excuse my French. Some of you, whoa, what happened? How'd you do that? Oh my God, because see, you're still comfortable. As Mr. You're too comfortable. Too comfortable. Mr. Nelson said it 3 weeks ago. I never forget this. You guys come on here again and again and again. Hey, we love you. But who have you brought on with you? Who have you brought on? Man, and I feel the same way he does, because I mean, we do a major production. I look at this week review and this weekend's review. Jonathan Driscoll, Shaquille Cooper, David Lowe, Mr. Nelson, like crying out loud. You even have Mr. Dean. I mean, what more do you need? This is better than the convention. Just as good as convention. But outside the convention, who's got? Look what you got. Quit studying it and implement it, every one of you. And I'm saying that from the bottom of my heart with the most love and sincere I can say without going crazy, because you know how I go crazy. I don't try to beat nobody up, because come on, what are you waiting on? Right there tonight was so powerful. I mean, we should have gave baby food, but he gave you steak tonight. What can I say? Don't choke on it. Just do something with it. Back to you, Mr. Nelson.
Oh, I'm complete.
Man,
I just forewarn you guys, look at the conversations that are around you and start to build walls. It's good people as like good to great. It's an amazing book that you guys should read at some point in time. The reason why there aren't great people is because so many people have good people around them. The reason why there aren't great schools is because you have so many good people, good schools around you. The reason why there aren't great relationships is because so many people are in good relationships. Good people are actually death to your greatness. If you listen to their conversations, my conscious decision was to eliminate anything that's not in alignment to the trajectory of where I'm going. And all you got to do is listen to what's coming out of a person's mouth, what they're talking about most. I mean, it's really that simple. And many of my leaders will know, even that are on the call. It's like, and it's like, you have to create. If you shoot for the moon, you're going to get stardust. You shoot for the curb, you're going to end up right there in the gutter. You keep letting everybody that's just common and that's why I had the conversation with Ty and Lisa. I don't want anybody around me that's working a job. And if they aren't fighting to get off of a job, and I see that in a period of time, and they're comfortable, they make good money, they make $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year, I eliminate them from my life. That's broke in my world. That's a broke mentality. This didn't start at SVP. This started when I was very young. I already knew where I wanted to be, but I'm telling you right now, I don't let employees around me that work a job stay in my life. And it's a secret to you guys because I don't normally voice this, but there's people that have been eliminated, not because of anything other than the fact that they're comfortable working a job. If they're in my organization, the longer they work a job, the further they get from me. If I don't see somebody pissed off at going to work and fighting to get off of a job, they're comfortable at that job. And that's okay. I don't make them wrong for that. I don't make a person wrong for being gay. I don't make a person wrong for being Japanese or Black or Jewish. I just, as a human being, have the choice of what I want in my life. I don't make you wrong for being atheist. You could be whatever you want to be, and I can still love you from way over there. Does that make sense to everybody? I'm going to allow you to be who you are. If it does not align with who I am, then we'll wave from different planets. I'll send a bottle with a note in it across the ocean. But I give people time and space and time to hang themselves. And I just kind of disappear. Because I can't hear anything they're saying. Because their actions are so loud. We are complete. I am done. I love you guys. You guys have an amazing weekend. I believe there's a leadership tomorrow night with Mr. Al Thomas at 6 p.m. I'll announce it since he didn't. I'm pretty sure he's consistent with that. And there's a training in the morning, always with ACN. I'm sure that's at whatever time you guys are plugged into. But I would push reset and really take inventory of who you are being and becoming before this night is over. So I'm complete, Mr. Thomas. God bless.